Thank you. Mr. Sanchez, same question to you, sir. If elected to mayor, what would be your foremost priority?
Absolutely. Your district deals with an issue that there is not enough productivity within it, and that's very important to understand and also find a solution for. And that solution is basically, if you look at the private sector, and this isn't just your district, there's numerous districts, but I want to point this across. If you look at the private sector, there's not enough infusion of capital in your neighborhoods. And that's a competition issue. It's the reality that the private sector here has protected its ground enough to not let other competitors come in and actually infuse capital into your neighborhoods. My priority is to bring in competition and show them that there is an opportunity in building in neighborhoods like yours. And that is done through the mayor's seat by selling the city and selling where the return on investment is in that aspect. So you have to infuse capital to actually establish and build your neighborhoods. You have to infuse capital through the private sector. Now, the city government, we can fill in some gaps there. Seniors are being priced out of their homes. That's a very real reality. There's students that are leaving the private sector and going to other cities like Austin and Dallas because there's not enough jobs here. We fill in those gaps as city leaders. And my priority is to fill those gaps, cut costs on the budget, and bring in competition to infuse money and build outs of your neighborhoods.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mr. Perry, my question to you is pertaining to Project Marvel. From your viewpoint, do you think that there's a reason why constituents were not notified of the tax revenue, or revenue tax, excuse me, and additionally, what is your view on Project Marvel as a whole?
Yeah, overall, why they didn't bring this to the public is because they knew what reaction there was going to be across the city. People don't want to add to our tax burden here. They don't want to add to our debt here in San Antonio, and that's what they were afraid of. So they rolled out these real pretty pictures that everybody can take a look at. Oh yeah, that looks great, fantastic. I looked at it, I said, man, that'd be great for downtown. But the question always comes down to, how is it going to be paid for? We still don't know. That information has not come out to us, and I can tell you that I am not supporting a taxpayer-funded Project Marvel. It needs to come from somewhere else, especially that Spurs arena. What's in it for the city? What's our return on investment? You know, if we got all this $1 billion available out there, I just said the other day, instead of concentrating downtown, why don't we give each district $100 million to satisfy your requirements in each district? If that money is so available, let's upgrade the entire city and not just focus in downtown. What do you think about that? You know that is something that we need to take a look at instead of just always concentrating on downtown, especially with your tax dollars. Fund it a different way, but not with your tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to remind everybody that we also have refreshments in the back as well. I'm going to go through just for the final candidates and ask them pretty much the same questions, unless of course it's a duplicate. And then at the end, once everybody's answered those questions, then we'd like to go ahead and just give a minute to each person to kind of round out the mayoral candidate form, okay? And so my next question is, I'm actually going to go back to you, Mr. Pablos, because I know that we went out of order. So how do you feel? Did I ask you about Project Marvel? No. What are your thoughts on Project Marvel moving forward, and maybe why the constituents were left in the dark at the beginning?
So before we even start talking about Project Marvel, we need to talk about what's going on here at the Frost Bank Center and what we're going to do with that, because that's really where it all began. So now that we're talking about spending more taxpayer money or private sector money downtown, I want to know what's going on over here. What are we going to do with the Frost Bank Center? What's going to happen around this area? Promises were made. I'd like to start talking about maybe going up to Austin and speaking with TxDOT and figuring out how we build better roads into that place. Start talking about bringing in private sector investment. I've already talked to Coca-Cola. I'm working with Coca-Cola to see what it is that we can do in that area, perhaps do a land swap or do something with them so that we can improve that whole facility. What are we going to do with a golf course? Is there the possibility of bringing in a resort? I'd hate to ever see our golfers lose yet another golf course here, so I want to make sure that those golfers are protected. But as it relates to Project Marvel, let me tell you this, whoever came up with those images and the names, they don't know what they're doing. They really don't. We have a situation where we're asking for the taxpayers to pay for something that the entirety of the city isn't going to benefit from. So we need to make sure that that happens. And look, I love the Spurs, and I know there are other cities that want to take them, but we have to make sure that our taxpayers are protected first. We cannot be spending money on things before we focus on our basic services.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, appreciate it. Sergeant Samaniego, what would be your foremost priority if elected to mayor of San Antonio?
Everyone had a good answer for this one. I'm going to stick with the basic stuff. What I like to do is instill the dress code. That's it. God made two genders. We're here as representatives. Right? So if you're a man, you need to look like a man. And if you're a female, you need to look like a female. So we're here to represent San Antonio. We're not here to represent a sexual preference. So that's one of my first priorities. It's also going through transparency. You know, we need to see why we're in the position that we're in now. You know, not try to go forward in a road that's already been built, in a path that's already been put together for you. Everyone has a great answer for this, but you know, we have mathematicians, statisticians, right, that have already built this and paved this road to where you're going to go. So my focus would be to go backwards, find out how we got to where we're at, and rebuild the road back there. We're doing road construction everywhere else. We might as well start back here on ours and get a better economy going forward there. Build a new road for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rocha Garcia, what would be your priority if elected to mayor, especially with being able to transition from city council to the mayor spot?
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of plans that sit on shelves for years. And so my first, I think in the first 100 days, I would start looking at those plans. What is it that we haven't accomplished? What is it that we need to revisit? My 3 priority areas would be housing, healthcare, and economic empowerment through education. On the housing front, we have the strategic housing implementation plan. How can we propose perhaps a bond